Hello everyone, my name is History Nuggets, and today we will be continuing our Napoleonic Wars series with the Finnish War. After the Russian Emperor Alexander I signed the Treaty of Tilsit in 1807 with Napoleon, King Gustav IV Adolf was given an ultimatum by Alexander I that they would have to listen to the continental system. Sweden, a loyal ally to Britain, would not listen and would attack Denmark with Britain in the Second Battle of Copenhagen. After this would be the separate Anglo-Russian War, which would last for 5 years. The Russians would demand the Swedish to close the Baltic Sea, which would not be listened to by the Swedish. Gustav Adolf would then continue his alliance with Britain, and Russia declared on the 30th of December that they would intervene if no action occurred. Sweden, seeing this, was worried, as their army was heavily inferior. Russia would hope to use this as a way to occupy Finland to secure St. Petersburg more. Russia, using spies across the region, would gain much intel, and would be fairly confident to invade due to fortifications only present in the south. On February 21st, 1808, 24,000 Russians under Frederick Wilhelm von Buxhoffen entered Alevenskoski and took Lovisia. The Swedish would then assemble at Tavastehus and would arrive on the 2nd of March. The Swedish would begin avoiding battle and would withdraw. The Russians would quickly take Svartholm, Borga, and Helsingborg in just 2 weeks. The Swedish would quickly begin burning down any usable material and would continue the fallback. The Russians would take Kuopio on the 16th of March. The Swedish forces were heavily ill-equipped, with most men not having many weapons to fight with. The first major siege of the war, the siege of Svartholm, saw only 300 Swedish soldiers have weapons. The Swedish fort of Sveaborg, under Admiral Karl Olaf Konsted, would be super well supplied. The Russians would lay siege, and the Russians would be victorious, however, on the 6th of May, 1808, seeing the Russians gain much of the Swedish fleet. The Russians would then begin to fear the mighty Swedish and Royal navies sending troops onto the coastline, resulting in the Russians heavily fortifying the coastlines. The Swedish would issue a counterattack at Skotskog, halting the Russian offensive. After this was the Battle of Revelax, where the Swedish would begin an advance towards the south. The Russians would then be sent out of Gotland and Atland, with guerrilla warfare occurring throughout all of this. 14,000 British troops planned to enter Gothenburg, but would quickly withdraw due to the distraction of the French invasion in Spain. The Swedish would try to blockade the Hango Peninsula, but would fail quickly. The Swedish would then be led by Eberhard von Vegasak, who would land in Limu, and the Russians would be surprised in Abo, but would be victorious in counterattacking, leading to the Swedish withdrawing. After the Battle of Remenito Camp, the Russians would be in a stalemate, saying the Swedish is defeated. The Swedish forces would be defeated once more in Talholmen and Sandestrom. After this, the Russian forces were reinforced even more by August, and a new Russian offensive would occur. This new offensive saw victories in Kotain and Salmi. The Swedish would win the Battle of Jota, but the Russians would respond in Alvaresis right after. The Finnish guerrilla movement would also be put down. Despite minor naval clashes, the Swedish would keep invading the southern portions of Finland, seeing them drive the Russians towards Bornsberg. A Russian fleet would then hope to defeat the Swedes, seeing the Russians quickly defeated. Sweden would begin to be stressed even more, mainly due to the battles against the French and the Danish. By November of 1808, all of Finland was taken by Russia, and Russia would then hope to eventually invade the Swedish mainland. The Swedish would then see a massive coup occur, and Charles XIII of Sweden would ascend to the throne. The new king's first action would be to counter the Russians' invasion, leading to them being surrounded by the Russians. After the British began arriving in greater numbers, the Russians and the anxious Charles XIII would begin peace talks in August of 1809, seeing the Treaty of Fagersham signed. This would see Sweden give up all of Finland, Sweden joining the continental system, and them declaring war on Britain. The war after 2 years was over. This is History Nuggets. Thank you for watching.